the NFC. Because the AFC, you got the Bills and the Chiefs, and then I think you can maybe throw the Bengals in there, and then I don't know. After that, it's kind of murky. Like you have the Ravens, but I'm not sure how much I buy them because they're kind of struggling, and then there's some other teams that are they're decent, but they're not like great. But in the NFC, to me, whoever makes the Super Bowl, it's going to come down to which team can play the way that it wants to in those 2 or 3 playoff games. Okay? Because look at all the teams in the NFC, right? You got the Eagles. They basically play a certain way, right? They're going to run the ball a lot, with their running backs and with Jalen Hurts. They've got some playmakers, in terms of receivers. He's going to try to make some plays with his legs and also with his arm, But they want to try to get ahead of you and then just sort of dictate the pace of the game. They can get behind a little bit and maybe come back, but they can't get too far behind, I don't think. San Francisco, you saw them yesterday. They scored 23 points in the game. At one point, the game was 28-23. But that's kind of tough for them to keep scoring like that. They can't keep up with Kansas City because Kansas City, their offense is so good, they can just dictate terms to you. And if you can't keep up with them, you're done, So, and then who else in the NFC? I mean, like the 49ers, so they need to get healthier and they need to be able to play defense well. They need to be able to run the ball so Jimmy Garoppolo can just make some play action throws and also the stuff over the middle, and they can play the way that they want to. If they can play the way they want to, they can probably beat anybody in the NFC. But can they? Are they going to be healthy enough? And then you just have a bunch of other teams where it's like the Cowboys, their defense is legit. And they need, if they can run the ball and their defense plays like that, maybe they have a shot in the playoffs. But Dak Prescott, how much are you really getting? The Giants have basically won a bunch of one-score games. They're just another classic example of a team that comes into a year and they have a really good section of the year where they just win a bunch of close games. Where it could kind of go either way. I'm not really buying into them. And then you got like the Bucks, they're struggling. You've got the Packers, who are obviously they really miss Devontae Adams. They can't seem to get it together on offense. You got the Vikings. You don't really trust Kirk Cousins in prime time, But if the Vikings get on top of you and their defense is playing well and Dalvin Cook's running the ball and they can dictate things like that, then yeah, maybe they can win some games in the playoffs. So that's all that it's going to come down to. All this window dressing stuff in the regular season, it's basically like just get in. And then if you can play the way that you are able to play at your best, you might be able to get through the NFC. So that was kind of something I was thinking about today.
Yeah, the season's so long now that it basically comes down to who gets healthy and who gets hot at the end of the season.
Right.
And so, that's why I wouldn't count. It's very hard to count anybody out at this point because, as you said, most of the league is right around 500. They're one game above at 500 or one game below. So they all have a shot.
Seattle's scoring points. Like Seattle, I'm totally shocked with that. Could the Rams turn things around a little bit? Maybe. I don't know. Could the Bucks figure some stuff out? I don't know. But if they do, possibly.
Yeah. So those are some teams I want to talk about. So do Green Bay or Tampa Bay? Does one of them make the playoffs? None of them? What do you think at this point?
Oh man.
Because I think Green Bay's done.
I mean, you could argue they're both done. I mean, I just don't I would say probably both. But can I just I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but can I just say this because I texted this yesterday. So Tom Brady blew up his marriage to lose to the Carolina Panthers 21-3. Look, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but let me just say this about Brady. Look, he's going to do what he's going to do. He can keep playing if he wants to, fine. And I mean, he can still throw the ball really well. But and we've talked about this before. Dude, if you win another Super Bowl, what does that do?
Right.
All right, you've set all the records. Like, what, you're going to play another year after this? You're going to put yourself further in front of everybody so no one can ever catch you? I mean, I would be a little bit surprised if people caught him now. I mean, he's so far ahead on all these records. So it's like, dude, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, I just, again, I don't know what all's going on here, but it's just like, dude, you've done enough. Why don't you just, like your family just wants to spend more. Again, your family just seems to want to spend more time with you, and you don't want to retire. It's like, okay, like whatever. But it just to me, it seems like, look, most people regard you as the greatest quarterback of all time. The people who don't, they're not going to change their opinion ever. Okay, most people consider him the GOAT. Okay, and nothing he does is going to change anything. If people are upset about the Deflategate thing, they're going to continue to be upset about it. Nothing he does by continuing to play is going to change any of that. So it just kind of seems like, it just seems like he's one of those guys that just can't let it go. Again, I don't really know, but anyway, that's besides the point. I mean, they scored 3 points against Carolina, who Carolina we thought they were basically just giving up their season. They traded 2 players. It's like they're done. They fired their coach, and you lose to them. So I guess I would say both, but it's hard for me to say both because the NFC is it's a clusterfuck. There's just so many teams that I'm just like, whoever's playing well enough at the end of the year and can get to 9 or 10 wins, they could make the playoffs. And then it comes down to tiebreakers and, whatever else.
I just don't think Green Bay is going to be able to. I don't think Green Bay's fortunes are going to change because it's not like, oh, we have a bunch of guys injured. Like, they are what they are. Like, and people are talking about, well, they should get Odell Beckham. You can trade for a receiver if you want. That's not going to dramatically change who you are. Like, and I do think the young guys will get better, but they can't beat Washington. They can't beat the Jets. They can't, they're getting beat by teams that, that they shouldn't be getting beat by. I just think that's finished. I just don't see it getting better. Brady, the issue with Tampa is like Brady can't do what all these, he doesn't have the extra gear that these other quarterbacks do. He's got to have the right situation. They have to have a good offensive line in front of them. They have to do all of these other things because he can't. He's. I don't want to say that he's limited, but he is. He's limited. He can't move. He doesn't have the same. It's not the same as it used to be with him. The offense is not on the same level. He looks like the last year in New England. That's what he looks like to me. When it's like, oh, geez, So I think if they can't get the offensive line issues figured out, and plus, even when, from what I saw from the game, even when they block well, he's missing throws that he shouldn't be missing. He's throwing the ball into the ground. Now receivers are dropping balls too, but yeah, I think they still have a shot because Tampa's division's terrible.
Yeah.
And same with the Rams. Like, the Rams still have a shot because their division's bad.
It's
Green Bay, I think
they're all right around the same thing. So it's like literally it's going to come down to, a couple of games late in the season.
So, but Green Bay, they're not going to win the division. And so they're going to be in this cluster with all these teams. I don't know that Green Bay is going to be over 500.
Yeah.
Like, Tampa, I still feel like they could. But, I'm out on Green Bay. I think it's done. I think it's over with. And I was listening to Ryan Russillo earlier today, and he's like, yeah, it's hard to feel bad for Rodgers, and I get that. Like, Rodgers is kind of a dick. Like, I get it. It's hard to feel bad for him. At the same time, this is, like, the team, like, you have Aaron Rodgers, and this is what you stuck him with? Like, this was your plan going into the season, and we're going to have 2 rookie receivers and Sammy Watkins, and then our defense will be really good, and the defense hasn't been good. So It's just I think they're both. It's both of their faults. It's the Green Bay organization has completely mismanaged their team. I think their coach is kind of a fraud. Like, I don't think LaFleur's really good, and so he can't overcome this. But anyway, we could talk about Green Bay all day. But yeah, Green Bay, I think it's done. And Brady, like, if this thing falls apart for Tampa, I don't see any way. Like, it's just gonna be really ridiculous if Tampa goes 7-10 in Brady's last year, and it's just kind of like, nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna remember what his last year was. Nobody remembers the last year of Jordan in Washington, so no one's gonna remember it. But I just kind of find that interesting. Yeah, as you said, the league is completely upside down. The Jets and the Giants continue to be good. Meanwhile, the Chargers and the Broncos and the Jaguars continue to disappoint us.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised by the Chargers because they've been disappointing people for 20 years now. So,
Well, speaking of head coaches that are frauds, I think Brandon Staley's just, oh my God, this guy's retarded. First of all, his defense is bad. The guy's a defensive coach. The defense is bad. Like, the offense is dink and dunk. Like they can't. They've got maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They can't figure it out. It's incredibly disturbing. How do you score 19 points against Denver? Like all Denver does is punt the ball back to you. Like how do you not? It's amazing.
Yeah. Denver's the whole thing. That I don't think they're going to get that stuff figured out. I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to get fired at the end of the year. Because I just don't like, and that whole thing just, I don't like, is Russell Wilson just bad now? And I mean, if he's bad, I mean, they're stuck with him he signed that huge,
yeah, it's not good. Teams, from what I was reading, teams have been calling them to try to trade for their receivers. Like literally, like Broncos may be in sell mode real quick. If Russell Wilson misses another week, like they're 2-5. I mean, it's basically over. So Denver's just a whole thing. We don't even have enough time to go into it. I don't know what. I mean, Russell's just playing. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. I don't know what the reason is.
Bad,
but Russell's playing bad. He's playing like shit.
Bad.
If Tua was playing this way, we'd be screaming on this podcast.
Oh yeah, Tua's at least playing better than that. I mean, shit.
Absolutely, Tua's hitting guys when they're open. Like it's just. I don't know what the deal is. I wanted to talk about the Jaguars because they completely fucked this game up. So Jaguars are up 17-13. There's 11 minutes to go. Okay. They're at somewhere like the 20, like the Giants 20-yard line, right? And again, they don't kick the field goal. They go for it on 4th down. They get stuffed by the Giants. The Giants go down. They score a touchdown. So now they have the lead. And at the end of the game, Jacksonville is they have to score a touchdown at the end to try to win. So they have to keep throwing the ball into the end zone and eventually I think it got, the guy caught it at the 1.
He caught it at the 1, yeah.
And the time ran out. Okay. And it's like, I think this is a big thing for me. And this is a big thing that Mike Lombardi mentions all the time. These coaches, they don't evaluate their own team correctly. Okay. You're 2-4. Like, and I've been a big fan of Doug Peterson. I wanted the Dolphins to hire him in the worst way. But, dude, you have the worst 4th down percentage in the NFL. You're 2-4. Like, kick the damn field. Like, I don't even understand how many ways can we say this. Like, now they're 2-5. Like, now again, as we said, their division's terrible too. So they ain't out of it. But it's just like you're just blowing games for no reason. There was no excuse for losing that game. Like the game would have been tied. You maybe could have beat them in overtime. All you would have needed at the end was a field goal, which you were in field goal range.
Right.
Like it's insanity. Like
and like you said, their division. I mean, what is Tennessee in first place now?
Yeah, they're 4-2.
Speaking of a team that actually manages things correctly, like
I forgot
Mike
to
Vrabel,
mention, yeah.
Yeah,
Mike
I
Vrabel,
think he's because look, I think he's a really good coach because they made the playoffs 3 years in a row, and they literally it seems like they're always competitive. They may lose a couple games, but then they kind of figure it out. They play within themselves. It's like we're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill's going to make a few plays here and there. He's going to throw some play action passes. He can run a little bit, and our defense will play well, and we'll stay in the game, and we'll just try to win the game.
They're 4-2 with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback, no receivers, Derrick Henry, and their defense is okay, and they're 4-2. Like, Tell me that's not the coach. I mean, it's insane.
And again, look, they made the playoffs, and I've said this numerous times. I just want people to understand. They made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Do you realize
the number
how
one
difficult
seed
it is
last
to just
year?
make the playoffs year after year after year? I think people don't understand this. It's like that's really fucking hard. Okay, and he did it 3 years in a row, and they might be on their way to winning that division again. So,
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. He's I think Doug Peterson misevaluated his team, and I think Mike McDaniel's making the same mistake in Miami. He thinks, oh, my offense can do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And these guys, they're so into looking at their play sheets and figure out what they're going to call that they're not managing the rest of the team. They're not managing the game that you're in. You can't, this isn't fantasy football. You can't just, oh, well, I've got the play call for this and the play call for that. It's like, no, man, like you got to see what's going on in the game, because if you're managing the game, the right decision there is to kick the field goal 100 out of 100 times. Go up 9. You've got a rookie quarterback on the other team. in his second start. Like, don't mess around. Don't, it's so hard to win. Just do what you got to do to win. So, let's play a little game here. Do you believe in the New York Jets?
Do I believe in the New York Jets? I mean, no, because I think, there's that old thing that Bill Parcells said where you are what your record says you are. And that's true to an extent, but sometimes it's deceptive. Like I mentioned, the Giants, they basically have won 5 one-score games.
And they've been behind in every game.
Yeah, exactly. And what are they, 6-1 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, they're 6-1, so that can't be ignored. They're very well positioned to make the playoffs. Okay. But that's kind of deceptive, and the Jets are what, 5-2?
Yep.
I mean, that's a little deceptive. I give them credit for winning the games that they've won, and it looks like they've got some talent on both sides of the ball. So, how good is Zach Wilson? I don't know. I don't think he's that great.
Zach Wilson is doing the Tua impression from last year. Like, he's doing the 2021 Tua. Like, he's throwing for about 100 yards a game. And they're like, please don't throw it. Please stop. Yeah. Don't do that, And you watch him, and it's just – and he's like he's all over the place. He runs out of the pocket. You want to talk about, quarterback decision-making that's questionable? Whew. He just runs around, and then he'll throw the ball, and then he's trying to, it's a freak show. So I think it's great that the Jets have won some of these games, but the Cleveland game, they had no business winning that game, and the Dolphins, they got to play the third string quarterback, and so I'm not buying the Jets, and it's just it's going to be so much more difficult to make the playoffs in the AFC than the NFC.
Yeah. Well, okay, so did you see that now I guess this is partly because of injury, but the Colts have benched Matt Ryan. Now, he did suffer a shoulder separation, but they're starting Sam Ehlinger for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Matt Ryan in 7 games has 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
Well, I was going to say, can he be worse than Matt Ryan is? I mean,
I guess
again,
not.
Speaking of not planning your teams very well, we're going to go get a 38-year-old quarterback and put him behind a bad offensive line, and he'll be and see what he does. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, Indianapolis. Like, honestly, you're killing me. Like, Matt Ryan is fine, but you got to put him in the right situation for this to work. Like, you can't just stick Matt Ryan on your team and he'll be fine. Like, What is the deal, man?
Well, you know what's interesting though, and I was thinking about this. I mean, granted, the Falcons just got their asses kicked by the Bengals, but of course they did, because the Bengals are a good team and the Falcons are not going to beat a good team. But Arthur Smith, the coach of the Falcons, he was the offensive coordinator for Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, and then he became the coach of the Falcons last year. I think he's a good coach because he got the most out of Tannehill when he was in Tennessee. Then he goes to Atlanta with Matt Ryan, and their offense was decent last year. I mean, it wasn't like, they didn't win a ton of games, but I thought that they made plays. Matt Ryan still, he could still make some plays here and there. But then this year they trade him, and then they get Marcus Mariota, and now they run the ball a ton. Mariota runs it too. He doesn't even throw it they don't want him throwing it that much. And they're a really good running team. So that's an example of a team where it's like, this is what we got, this is what we have to do to win, and this is what we're going to do.
The Giants are a lot like the Falcons, honestly. Yeah. They both have quarterbacks that can run. They run the ball a ton. Now, the Giants have Saquon Barkley, which gives them a leg up. Like, they have a superstar.
Right. And then plus Daniel Jones can run, but that's different than Mariota because Daniel Jones is huge. Right. So, he can kind of run people over.
Yeah, which, is not like, it's funny. If you believed in Daniel Jones, I don't think he'd be running the ball that much. He threw like 7 passes in the second half in the game yesterday. So,
look,
all right.
You got to win games. Do what you got to do to win games.
Hey, I'm all about it. Like, I'm all about that. Like, honestly, like, and that's why it ticks me off so much when McDaniel and Doug Peterson and Brandon said they don't kick field goals. It's like, just win, man. Like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here by, making everything look pretty. No, just win the damn game. All right, do you believe in the Baltimore Ravens?
I mean, to do what? To win the division? Sure. You know.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, just winning their division, yeah, they can make the playoffs, but I'm not, you know. Do they have an extra gear that they can hit? Because if they don't have an extra gear, I don't think they can beat Buffalo or Kansas City.
I have a couple concerns. Their defense is not getting the job done. Number one, the offense it's not spectacular. Like, you know, it's a lot of and speaking of guys who didn't throw very much, I don't think Lamar Jackson didn't throw very many passes in the second half yesterday. So they should have beaten the Browns by, you know, double digits. Like, I mean, you know, we could talk about that later, but the Browns are not good. Like, I don't know what happened. And by the way, the Browns are one of those teams that have no excuse not to be good. Like, they have a good roster. They have good players. They have good talent. Their offensive line's good. You know, now granted, Jacoby Brissett's your quarterback, so you're limited. But yeah, Baltimore, I'm worried about. It's not the same. It's not the same defense that it was, and they don't run the ball the same way. You know, it's not as good as it used to be. I like some of their receivers, but I have concerns. I like Cincinnati. I know they beat Cincinnati, you know, a few weeks ago, but I think Cincinnati
should probably be 5-2, but their idiot coach, it was what was it? It was 13 to. It was the Ravens were playing the Bengals. The Bengals.
Oh right, they went for it on fourth down. Go figure. Go figure. The teams that keep going it on fourth down a lot, they lose games.
And look, by the way, okay, remember this is okay. So if you're 5-2, that's only 2 losses. You know, you're kind of in position to try to get the 2 or the 3 seed. You know, and now you've got 3 losses, and it's like you got more division games coming up. You got more tough games coming up. So it's like, I'm not necessarily saying you gave that game away, but it's like you can't screw some of these decisions up because some of these games you can't get back. And then at the end of the season, it can come down to, you know, we need 10 or 11 wins to get in, and we've got that extra loss, and we can't get there. So.
Let's see. So we talked about the Chargers. We talked about the Giants. Do you believe in the Cowboys?
No.
That was definitive.
No.
No waffling on that one.
I believe in the Cowboys unless they are in the lead in the fourth quarter in the NFC Championship game. Okay? Their defense is legitimately really good. Okay, Micah Parsons is ridiculous. Okay, he's just a game wrecker. Okay, and they are running the ball pretty well, so I'll give them credit. But Dak Prescott has not looked good in the 2 games that he's played this year, and they were just playing the Lions, whose defense is terrible. Okay,
I don't think their offense is good. I think their offense is a serious problem. I don't think it has anything to do with the quarterback. I think the offense is just not good, and that's gonna be an issue. Like you're trying to beat these teams, but look, the way the NFC is, like they could definitely make the playoffs. Like I gotta give McCarthy credit. He is playing to his strengths. He is doing what you need to do to win these games, and he's being smart about it. And it's kind of funny. Like I think we're going to get to the end of the season, Clark, and it's going to be like all these old school coaches. Wow, look at that. You know, all these old school coaches who make the correct decisions and do things that people have done forever. Boy, they're going to look a lot better than all these young guys who don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So, do you believe in Seattle?
I mean, they could win that division. Why not? I mean, why the hell not? Like, the Rams are struggling. I don't know what's going on with them. The Cardinals are, are they going to fire their coach? Is Kyler Murray, like, I don't know what the hell's going on with that. And then you got the 49ers. They got a bunch of injuries. They're well coached, but they got a bunch of injuries if they don't get that stuff worked out. And then the other thing that people just don't seem to want to talk about, Jimmy Garoppolo could get hurt. He's gotten hurt a bunch in his career. I mean, Yeah,
so. No, I like Seattle. I was watching yesterday, man. They tell you what, that running back, Kenneth Walker, he's a rookie from Michigan State. That dude is a badass. Like these, of course, Rashad Penny got hurt, right? Which he gets hurt every year. So, now they're using him exclusively, and the dude is a baller. And plus, DK Metcalf got hurt yesterday, so I don't know what's up with that. Like, if he's out for a while, that could be a problem, but it didn't seem to matter in that game. He was like, all right, I'll just light it up with all these other guys. And Geno Smith's playing his ass off. I tell you what, I like Seattle. I mean, I do. Like, everybody's talking about this NFC West thing. And I mean, yeah, if San Francisco doesn't get their guys back, they're in trouble. The Rams have still got offensive line issues. They got to get, their center back and all of that stuff. And, I mean, Arizona, who the hell knows what you're getting from Arizona every week? So,
Yeah.
I got to give, again, Pete Carroll, another old school coach. I feel like there's a theme. I mean, I hate, and listen, everybody was ripping Pete Carroll for the last couple years, but you know what? The dude can coach. You look at that team; they play their ass off. They hit people like, they look like they know what they're doing. And the fact that Russell Wilson sucks is like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's like that's all the redemption that you need for Pete Carroll. But anyway, but listen, man, the league is crazy. It's fun every week. I have no idea what's going on. So any other NFL stuff you want to do?
Yeah, no, I'll just keep reiterating it. There's just a bunch of teams that are in just sort of this soup or this stew. And it's just basically whoever gets hot towards the end of the year, they'll make the playoffs, and then maybe they'll.
I mean, I wrote down in my notes here. Buffalo and Kansas City have separated from everyone. It's their league.
Yep.
The rest of us are just paying rent, and that's it. That's what it
Pretty
comes
much.
down to. Like those two teams are just. I'm sorry, man. They're head and shoulders.
But in the NFC, dude, it is wide open. Philadelphia, you could win the NFC. I would not be surprised. Some of the some of the NFC West teams, one of them could get hot. They could win the NFC. I wouldn't be shocked at all. So
yeah, all it would take is, and plus, you never know. The wrong guy gets injured for one of these teams, and who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all for the NFL. So we'll go over